Hopefully, this will be a quick, concise 45 minutes. And if we get done a little early, that's quite okay. Give you guys some time back. So, the purpose of these meetings or of these webinars is to educate and to kind of show broad exposure. To begin with, I want to have Alexis, our executive director, kind of introduce herself. Many of you already know her, and she can give a more in-depth view of what we're doing and why we're doing this, and hopefully give some guidance on not only this meeting, but also the future ones. Alexis, if you could kind of start us off.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thank you everyone for joining. I was inspired by a executive roundtable that I was a part of, and it had everything from customers, competitors, vendors, but probably less on the vendors. And it was just an open forum where everyone could kind of ask questions or answer questions openly. And I think that's really great because, especially with AI, a lot of people want it in their environments, but it's the world of the possible. So hearing from your peers what they're doing or issues or how they're overcoming it. Rick and my team has curated subject matter experts to kind of give structure to the conversation, but we're going to do these once every month for the next 12 months. So we're going to send the series out. This was our first one in our maiden voyage. So thank you for joining. And if you have any content specifically that's near to dear to your heart, we do have a general lineup, but we could kind of tell you which month your subjects can be covered, or we can try to customize. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you, Alexis. And so, just to start off with a little introduction to myself. I am the director of cloud and security at John Alexander. Just as a caveat, I am more of an engineer technical person. We are trying to present this series from a business application view. So I may times get a little too technical. You guys feel free to rein me back in. It's quite okay. From a John Alexander perspective, in my role, what I've been working on are things like implementing LLMs, large language models, AI into application for validation, coding, operational efficiencies. And when I look at operational efficiencies and the application of AI in that world, one of the things that we focus on is how do we make processes better? How do we make them more user friendly? How do we take that data that systems are giving us and respond quickly? And that's what our other panelists actually do. They actually have applications, they have products, they have services that implement AI into their product sets to make our experience better. So I'm going to kind of go over our panelists and introduce them. I'm going to actually introduce all of them, and then we'll go back and then let them give a quick little intro specifically to themselves so that you know who's speaking. So the first panelist we have is Mike Schulman. He's with Yellow AI, large conversational AI company. They offer AI chatbots. So if you go to a website or you go to a help service portal, it's a little box that's in the bottom. They have 35 different what they call channels available through their product. Channels would be like a website or a WhatsApp or a Facebook Messenger or Apple Chat, basically going to the user where the user lives. We also have George Downey from NICE. I've been working with NICE for many years. Same with actually all of our panels, including our next one from Core. But NICE is one of the world's largest providers in cloud-based contact centers. And again, when you look at a contact center, think of it really as a phone system that's got brains behind it. They offer all kinds of good features like call routing, sentiment analysis, optimizing the contact with the customers so that that builds a stronger relationship for you guys and your customers. Finally, we've got Jason Haygood from Kore.ai. It's actually in the name, which is really great. So Kore.ai delivers conversational, generative, and agentic AI platforms. Now, I'm going to have another AI series a little later. As I said, I'm an engineer by um, by trade, so I get a little geeky on the generative agentive AI platforms, and you may not know what that means. Again, we'll have a different webinar around that. But they provide orchestration, governance, delivery across customers, employees, and different operational uh, features that help actually not only just deploy AI, but also gives control over AI from a security perspective, a compliance perspective, data isolation perspective. We look at AI, and one of the first things you hear about is, man, I'm going to use AI, or my staff's going to use AI, and it's going to go out to the cloud, and somebody else is going to have my data. So this is where kind of Kore.ai shines, is that they look at the security, they look at the compliance. So George, why don't you go ahead and do a quick hi, and so people can see you as we start this off.
Yeah, George Downey. I'm one of the AI consultants over on the NICE side. I previously came from the Cognigy acquisition, and prior to that, I was the director of AI innovation sales at C1 or Converge One. So super excited to be here and to talk more about AI.
Awesome. Jason.
Yeah. Hey, Rick. Thanks, everyone.
Hey.
Great to be here. As Rick said, I'm Jason Haygood. I work closely with CIOs and CTOs who are trying to move from kind of this AI experimentation to really enterprise-wide impact. And man, this has been the funnest journey of my career thus far. The only thing consistent in this world today is change. So excited to walk through this discussion with you guys.
Thank you. I don't think I haven't seen Mike jump on yet. Mike, if you're there, go ahead and speak up. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving. All right, let's keep moving. So what we're looking at is, again, as I already gave a precursor to, is we're looking at how to understand AI, how it affects teams. Now, the teams may be operational, they may be marketing, they may be HR. You hear a lot about AI replacing people. I don't believe the answer for AI is replacing people, but making them better. And that may allow companies to delay staffing augments, or delay the requirement to hire more people, and therefore better the bottom line. Oops, there you go. Thank you. Um, so this series is really looking at a CTO, CIO, ITVPs, directors level. As I said, we will have more really technical webinars in the future, where your engineers can join me, and we'll really get into the weeds. So at the end, we're hoping that these webinars, and particularly today's session, will give you insight of how others are using it, what's available, um, and what the feedback from the customer is. So I'm going to just go ask the panelists some questions. You guys, if you have another question, or there's an area you want to focus on, please chime in. Feel free to give insight. Again, as Alexis said, this is really a kind of a fireside chat where a bunch of experts and industry leaders are coming together to understand this technology. So in that aspect, to my panelists, how should leaders determine whether or not AI enhances their teams versus automating workflows? And how does that decision affect governance? What I'm asking is, how would a CIO, CTO, ITVP, how would they determine, is AI good for me?
hmm Rick, it's a great question. I'll take the first stab at that. I'd say it's fundamentally an operating model decision. When you think of workflows where AI can be impactful, if the workflow requires judgment, exception handling, or regulatory oversight, AI should augment humans there. That preserves really the accountability while helping also increase productivity. But if the workflow is rules driven, repeatable, measurable, automation, and AI can really create scale and cost efficiency. And then the other piece was on the governance. Governance implications is very significant. Copilot requires oversight, usage monitoring, autonomous systems. They require policy enforcement, orchestration between different systems, and then audit trails all the way back to the ownership. So you definitely need to have full visibility and observability into these. And in general, use cases that involve exception handling or where there's real judgment involved, those are great for humans. If there's a high volume and a lot of repetitive in nature, great use case for thinking about AI.
Yeah, and I'll just add on there, it really just comes down to kind of understanding the risk and customer expectation, not necessarily the technology. The biggest mistake I see is pretty much people going in and trying to automate first and then asking governance questions later. That always kind of leads you down a bad path.
So that's a great kind of a view of this because, if you look at any of the Gartner or other of the industry reports on AI, a huge portion of them fail. The project plans or the initiatives fail. And I think you're hitting something very critical, which is good for everyone to keep in mind as we go through this. To implement AI just because it's the buzzword AI is not a good move. You have to look at what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to optimize, and what you're trying to enhance. Jason just talked about it's a good tool, but it's a tool. And I wouldn't go out and buy a Mack truck if I'm just trying to go to the store. It's probably a poor analogy. I'm going to use the tools that I have. I'm going to use the car that I have. So, same thing with AI. We don't want to completely throw out everything we had just because it's the latest trend. Look at what your goal is. Look at what you're trying to accomplish, and then see where AI can fit into it, not the other way around.
I think
Mhm.
that you hit the nail on the head there. One thing that the leaders on the call should consider, because there are a lot of people from a lot of different industries on the call, but disruption to your environment, right? There are things that are inherent, whether it's a telephony platform, a CRM, anything that is an incumbent, right? And yes, they are enhancing through AI this way to increase their value to you, the customer. But you can also look at like the AI meeting you where you are, using those products more as transactional, right? And then putting a wrapper of AI, kind of like the core product or other products like on top of it. And then the intelligence is there. I kind of liken a little bit to SD-WAN when firewalls and SD-WAN kind of became the intelligence edge instead of the importance of the circuit. What did it do? It commoditized the circuit, bringing down cost in certain product sets, right? So I completely agree with you, Rick, and team.
So, if we're looking at AI from a perspective of enhancing and not replacing, let's look at it from a CRM or a CX level. You know, how can, and perhaps this is a great question for the panelists because they're actually doing this. How can AI integrate into these other tools like CRMs, phone systems, production systems to enhance or to increase productivity? How are you guys seeing it come through from a application standpoint?
I mean, that's
Hey,
kind
Rick.
of the backbone of what I'd say Core and Nice are doing right now is being able to be the orchestration layer to integrate to all of the different systems that every organization has that it's typically a human agent would be interacting with on their day-to-day basis to make sure that they're being able to service the customers, right? The CRM signals like the stage, account health, product ownership, any open opportunities, all of that will then drive information to the AI agent for it then to be able to take on kind of tasks to be able to resolve the things that come up, and then potentially even look at upselling or any type of scenarios that come through there. But really, the biggest impact is finding a platform when you're looking into these AI services out there that is going to be able to be an orchestration layer and integrate with all your core systems and your core knowledge. That's going to be the key to be able to get you something that's going to be successful from day one.
And just to echo what George is saying there, the orchestration layer is really where the rubber meets the road, right? There's so many tools out there. I heard the other day there's like 14,000 AI enterprise tools, or at least classify themselves in that respect. And so a lot of organizations have already deployed AI for web chats or voice agents or internal knowledge search or just process automation. So we have a lot of automation going around, but if it's not all integrated and connected, then your left hand's not talking to your right. And so from a core perspective, the first thing we try to solve for is integrating your entire IT stack. Whether you've got legacy systems, Oracle, SAP, IBM, that were never meant to talk to each other, they still may not talk today, which means the information you're getting from your customer on the web chat or the voice agent is not correlating with what you have on the back office. And so, I think personalization is available at scale today across for every use case for employees and customers, because we have caller IDs for our customers that are calling us, even if backend system is not connected. Once we know who's calling, then we can provide a personalized experience based on the person's purchase history, their language, what they care about, those types of things. But it's all about orchestrating the data flow, the systems.
So you guys just mentioned a couple of very interesting points. You talked about communication, you talked about connecting systems on the enterprise. So from the enterprise perspective, how do these AI deployments, if I, how do you see this scaling? So I make a big investment. I have a committee. We're going to look at implementing AI. We're going to look at implementing it in our forward-facing website, for example. But I want to take that technology, I want to scale it across my organization, as Alexa said earlier, without disrupting it. How are you guys seeing that kind of, let's start with a little nibble and then grow? How does AI deployment scale across channels? And again, a channel would be, a SMS or an email or any other kind of communication venue that a system can communicate from.
Yeah, I mean, especially in this global industry world that we're in right now, at global scale, the challenge isn't really building a bot. The challenge is building consistency across all the multitude of languages, all the channels, and all the different operating models that each of these regions might have. The winners of this kind of scaling practice standardize pretty much three things: the design patterns, the governance controls, and really then being able to measure it. When we're talking about languages, obviously you need some repeatable localization approach. So like the locales of it, each are going to be a little bit more customized. So it's not just translation, but it's the cultural aspects of it, any type of policy alignment that is going on there, and then obviously the testing pieces of it. With channels, you obviously need the orchestration layer to be able to strategize so that customers can start in a chat, move to voice, escalate to an agent without repeating themselves. So all the context of what happened is being passed to them. And then on kind of the workforce models of it, you need flexibility. You need in-house, outsourced, hybrid, the ability to enforce the same QA across all of those different models. And then the compliance posture obviously needs to be the same way for all three of them. If you're trying to scale, like you definitely need to be evaluating those with that type of mindset.
And Jason,
Mm.
how are you guys addressing scaling? Because we don't want to either waste staff time or burn budget. So we don't want to do something that's going to pigeonhole us and not be able to expand across an enterprise. We have to think about the breadth long term as we look at doing any of these deployments. So how are you guys addressing that?
Yeah, it's a really great question, Rick. I mean, CIOs today need to think about the majority of AI being used in the organization are people's personal chat GPTs, right? Because they're realizing, AI is not slowing down. I've got to figure out how to leverage it for myself, right? And so I can keep my job and I can reevaluate how I do work. But for scaling, it really comes down to three dimensions: so language, channel, and governance. Scaling across language and channels are kind of table stakes now. We of course started off with kind of this build the AI once and you can run it across every channel, this omni-channel intelligence idea. But the real challenge is consistent enforcement of policies, data residency compliance, operational ownership, as well of data regions, so that an employee over in India is getting a different response to an HR question than someone in the US. Enterprises really must standardize orchestration, that governance centrally, while allowing for local adoption, and the ability to tinker. Without governance, this leads just to fragmentation across the organization.
Okay, so we've talked about governance. Both you guys talked about governance at some level across the ability to grow AI within an organization. When you look at governance, you look at employees. Obviously, we're talking about at some level HR. We're talking about operations. So I'm going to give a real quick example, a, a, a real life current deployment that we're working with. Um, one of the clients that I work with is looking at deploying an AI chat system with an internal connection to a knowledge base, all local, doesn't ever leave their local systems. And what they're doing with that is they're creating an HR self-service. How many vacation days do I have? What is the policy on travel? Um, what can I expect for a, vacation day? Those kinds of things. So, are you guys seeing when companies are deploying the AI, are you seeing a lot of it focusing on internal operations, or are you seeing it from a marketing outbound kind of posture?
And before we hit that,
It-
we're going to answer this
Mhm.
question. Then I have a hand up with Diana. But
Okay,
Jason, please.
sure,
Just want
sure.
Sure. Yeah, good question. So core things about AI across really three avenues. Your customer experience, which would include every digital touch point that a customer may have. So email, SMS, phone call, being able to coach a live agent if the AI is on the call as well and is handing the call over, inbound, outbound, that type of stuff. And then employee experience, which is really like a personalized AI assistant for every employee. And then we have back office process automations. Think IT ticket triaging and automation for HR, IT policies, those types of stuff. On the employee experience, I mean, we've got several customers who've seen massive ROI on that. I'd say really it comes down to where are your team spending the most time, and where can we make the biggest impact. And if you have massive call volume, millions of calls coming through a year, and your teams are inundated, they're missing calls, that's a great place to start. If it's employees that we've got a large financial firm, 18,000 financial advisors in the US, 98% of them use this because it's a personalized AI assistant for them. They can say, hey, I'm going to Tampa next week. Find me all the customers who meet this criteria, right? 5 million in assets, they're married, they're over 60, whatever that criteria is, and then create a personalized financial plan for that person as a PDF to the email and draft up the emails. Okay, so we're integrating there with email, with calendar, with our CRM, with their investment piece as well to give investment advice, and then putting all that together in one interface. So I think that the future of work is going to be less tabs and more chat driven, where your personal AI assistant has access to all the same stuff you do, and they're able to orchestrate the data flow across those systems to help you get outcomes rather than just response to a question.
I'm going to ask you a real quick question because, a lot of what you talked about has to do with employee adoption. Employees feeling comfortable using these technologies to get that information, to get that marketing information. Are you seeing resistance from employees, or in general, from your perspectives, are you seeing employees embracing this, seeing that it'll help them be more efficient? Because it could go either way. I mean, quite honestly, some employees might look at it and go, this is becoming too automated. They're going to take my job. Some maybe, this is great. I'm going to sell more and I'm going to make more money.
Mhm. Yeah, it's a great question. It's a mixed bag. I'll say it depends on the use case, right? We're all kind of as humans trying to traverse this AI journey together, right? And I have a kind of very similar perspective to Elon Musk, right? Which is I can either decide to sit out and watch it happen. It's going to happen regardless, or I can be an active participant and hopefully steer the direction that we're going. So I'm choosing the latter there. And for employee teams that see that vision and realize that AI can help augment and automate and elevate their roles, um, those are the ones that are embracing it. I've read stories though about IT teams sabotaging AI deployments because with Cursive and some of these programming GPTs, I mean, it's incredible what AI can do today, and this is the worst it's ever going to be. It's going to constantly get better. So I would be thinking about how you're going to get adoption across the team. So you definitely want to have a champion there. Make sure that the use case is going to be a positive impact across the organization, especially if you're picking your first real one. You want it to be a big winner and provide a lot of value. So I say it's more of a business decision, right? I've historically worked with a lot of IT leaders, which I still do, but a lot of times the business users, the sales, the marketing, the legal teams, HR, those are the ones with the problems that they're coming to try to solve for us. You definitely want to involve them big time.
So,
Wait,
George,
before we
go
go
ahead.
on too far, I want to hit up Diana too, because she's had her hand up for a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Diana, you had a comment on this?
Hello, everyone. This is awesome, Alexis. This is a great roundtable forum discussion because I think everyone is asking these questions, right? Like 6 months ago, the question was, well, all this AI stuff is great, but is anybody making any money doing it or implementing it yet? And now it's like full blown. So I had a conversation with one of my biggest customers last week, and it was all surrounding AI. And I said, let's have the conversation. Let's talk about it because there's so much opportunity, especially when it comes to automating some of your workflows and making your job a little easier. Because the group that I work with, the IT team, is so overwhelmed, and the last thing they want is to hire more people, right? So then the question becomes, how can we leverage AI? Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Hold on.
Intruder alert.
Well, no, Diana also houses like very charitable. She has like 20 dogs in her house all the time. But
yeah, oh my God, and we just rescued 2 puppies from Homestead last weekend. So the question then is, they have so many workflows that they're still manual. And so our conversation was, well, how can we automate some of these workflows so that you're not overwhelmed and the company doesn't have to hire more people as you scale, right? So it's not about taking over jobs. It's about scaling and growing without adding more employee cost and not overworking your current employees. Their biggest concern is, okay, so how do we implement it? What can we do? Show us some use cases, make some suggestions. And then the biggest question then is how, from a security standpoint, they're really concerned about implementing AI solutions, but making sure that their data is secure and they're, you know what I'm trying to say.
So
it's a proprietary thought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give an actual example. Prior to coming to JAC, I worked as first of all, I was a Oracle database administrator, then moved into security role given my prior experience at a bank. And every night, these processors were run. They were doing checks on system integrity. They were doing database backups. They were doing validation and checksums of the systems. We had a whole staff of people that every night would just back up, validate, and secure systems. I can tell you, because I've been living in this AI world so in depth for a while now, that we could easily automate a lot of that process. We could have it run the backups, we can have it validate, we can have it redeploy into a container to make sure the systems are coming up. You don't have to do a once a year test anymore. The systems will bring up and tear down almost nightly if you want them to. So there are a lot of things that we can do in existing operations to reduce the cost because we're not going to go out and hire more people and increase the quality and efficiency of systems. I'm going to give you an example, another example. It's just this week. As part of this AI preparation, I deployed out an AI system locally, and then I set up a couple of servers. And I told the AI system, go to the server, set up a React website. There's a website that's running React, running a database, running all kinds of different functions inside of it. I want to have user-based controls. I want to have the ability to send out messages, the whole nine yards. I gave it a full stack. And within probably 3 hours, it was done. So I would look at to kind of address what you're saying. When somebody were to come to me and say, okay, this AI thing is great, but how do I use it? And I think it was Jason and it might have been George. They said, look at what you're trying to accomplish first. So in that conversation, I would ask that client, where is your pain points? Where are you finding your staff is spending the most time? And build the AI processes around that. Because I can tell you that there are solutions that can run and help that IT team. I know there's a lot of concern about security, as I said earlier, about going to the cloud and such. The example I just gave, it's a local system running locally on local servers, doing local tasks, never leaves my network. And I can configure, obviously, network-based access rules to restrict any communications beyond my network from these systems or reverse that coming in. So one of the things that, we can do if we want to have an AI conversation is we can come in and we can look at what the goals are. We can analyze what the objectives are, give recommendations, and bring the right people in to implement those solutions, like like a George and Jason's and stuff, as part of a consulting model. So JAC can do that. We're here for you. But great comments, Danny.
Let me interject really quick. I think sometimes too, customers don't know what they want to accomplish with it.
Percent.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I really like the concept of always going in meeting you where you are without creating disruption, right? From an operational perspective. And then enhancing. And these vendors will come to us and they say, we have all this use case. Are you insurance? Are you in finance? Are you in whatever? A lot of them have like playbooks, and it's probably not identical to what you need, but it is at least a place to start. That's also what this is about. I'm going to pick on you for a second, Evan. I know you just you joined at my bequest. If you guys don't know Evan, Evan is the CEO of Opstack, and he built our platform. But he's also my data modernization guru. So anytime when I do multi-cloud architecture, he goes in and cleans it up first for the most part. But they do only project work. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Evan, how many AI projects are you being brought into currently? And is some of it about meeting them where they are, solving a problem, or are you helping them conceptualize AI?
So thank you, Alexis. And we're doing things at multiple levels. First, in a lot of the software development work right now, we're making use of AI agents to accelerate the delivery of projects, to basically use it as a force multiplier for getting work done. But what we found is that it's critical to that your ability to generate code does not exceed your ability to comprehend the code that was generated and to do a rationality, reasonability, and security check on it. I do have to say that for Opstack, our single biggest revenue generator out of the agentic AI so far has actually been fixing systems that were developed by junior developers making use of Claude or Gemini, releasing it to production and doing damage. And so repair work has been remarkably profitable for us lately, which it's scary, but so far, none of it's made it to the front page of the Wall Street Journal. So we feel very, very good about that. But the other thing that we've been actually working heavily in of late is helping companies deal with some of the critical non-functional requirements of applying agentic AI. The security side, which Rick talked about, it's when it's all internal and it can be sandboxed, then that's that makes it easy. It gets more difficult if it's public facing and the data sensitive. But we've also been working with Stahl Industries, where these are ex-SAP and Google senior executives to create an environment where you can use agentic AI in financial transactions and make them auditable, traceable, and interruptible. So actually instrumenting and putting control structures into the orchestration layer, so that if you've got an AI agent paying invoices and comparing purchase orders against receipts, against invoices, against QA reports on the products that are coming in, that it's doing the right thing and stop it before it does the wrong thing.
Before we go too far down that too, I saw Jason nodding when he was saying you're doing cleanup work. I haven't had to do any cleanup work yet. Jason, you've got, I just wanted to put it to our other group of experts. Have you guys had to do cleanup work thus far?
Well, and I see it with customers who sometimes, there's so many AI companies, so many people snapping AI onto existing products today, but not every company should be an AI company, right? In some cases, the models in the market is changing so fast. It's wiser to partner up with an organization that does this full time. But we've had several current customers who did it themselves first, and I mean some very funny stories coming out of it. Airlines, the airline having to refund a bunch of customer tickets because the AI created its own rule where it can issue refunds. We see that type of stuff, but if you have the right RBAC, the role-based access controls set up, and if you have a platform like Core, ours is a no-code, pro-code, and low-code tool. So you can get into code if you want to, but you don't have to. As a business user, as a sales guy, I have my own AI agent that I built, right? Working with one of our business analysts. I'm like, hey, I want to take the notes from Zoom, put them into the HubSpot, into HubSpot, and do a couple other things with RFP responses. I think that's really the future that I see, is the responsibility for innovation, not solely relying on IT, right? Which they have a long to-do list, but enabling business users in every department to start to build agentic workflows for them.
Could I just interject real quick and Jason, ask you a question? This, first of all, what you just said sounds like a blockbuster movie about to happen, where the AI teaches itself and then, like you said, starts refunding. I mean, that would be an interesting play on. It'd be interesting to see how you would prevent the AI from learning and implementing things that you can't even predict. You know what I mean? How do you create code to prevent an AI from becoming a runaway train?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and we have a lot smarter people here that I'd rather answer that for you, but I will give it my best. And what I would say is just having the right guardrails on every AI, being able to test and deploy multiple language models against each other, pre-deployment testing to see what type of responses you're getting, and then to run simulated tests across thousands of responses against different language models. We have customers, they'll do that, and they'll maybe they use OpenAI for something and they switch to Gemini for image generation, and then they're using maybe a local model for like database requests or something like that. You need visibility into your token usage consumption, because you can burn through tokens if you're not setting these things up right. And on the hallucination point, people actually don't know what triggers an AI hallucination. We know it happens, but we can't go back and figure out like what caused it. But if we ask the same question again and again, we'll get the same hallucination. So I'd say it's all about setting up those guardrails and testing things out, and then also having the ability to monitor what's going on with your deployments, being able to get down to every single ask and answer from AI to figure out, I mean, to constantly refine your responses through time. But
Yeah,
and
it's a
there's
little
that,
scary.
yeah, having that one pane of glass where you can see everything, because you got all different departments. I mean, organizations in a few years from now, we're going to have thousands of AI agents, right? We're all going to have a team of agents where our orchestrator selects which agent to use to help us out. So how are you going to manage this at scale? It's definitely a very important question to figure out.
I can see where some of the workflows that I'm talking with my client about could could get a little hairy where the AI agent decides to skip a task because it's already decided that it's fine, and then it skips a person in that workflow. But I mean, you basically have to predict what how that AI can evolve, which is very difficult. So you have to really put some serious guardrails or rules in place so it doesn't go outside of those boundaries.
Yeah,
There's also
traceability and
traditional.
control
Yeah,
is going to be one of the critical elements now. And Jason, I couldn't agree more with many of the things you said. One thing to be careful of is that LLMs in particular, are stochastic, but they're not predictable. So that you can, the same problem posed or the same task posed to the same LLM at a different time can get a different result. And one of them can be correct and one of them can be hallucinated. So, which is why traceability and control systems and actually using advanced tech and models to watch the AIs as they be is getting to be more and more critical. That's a lot of the more advanced work we're doing right now. And it's especially as you get into financial systems and mission critical systems.
So we have about a minute left. So I hate to cut this off because it's really getting really good.
Yeah.
There were a lot of things to dive into in that last exchange. I think what I got out of it, as you guys are looking at either helping other people or looking at doing this internally, is that implementing AI can go off rails quickly. It has the ability to self grow, to self program, to self heal. And you have to have measures in place to guard against that getting too wide and hitting systems that it shouldn't. From a database perspective, you may want it to optimize a particular section, and all of a sudden, from a healthcare perspective, you see it going into client patient records. You've got to have a way to bring that in control. And then, as I said before, my background is a lot in security and compliance, so that's kind of a sweet spot for me and how I'm looking at AI. But the examples that were given, if you don't get this under control, there will be staff that implement this. They can do it on their phone. They don't have to be within the corporate infrastructure. So the goal is to allow staff to implement an AI with the guardrails that prevent that seep into other areas, into data sets that they shouldn't. In order to do that, you don't want to come in after the fact. I know Evan's making a pretty good living now fixing other people's messes, but bring him in early. Bring in, George early. Bring in Jason early. Get in and just let's do some evaluations. Look at what's the goal is. Find out what the guardrails need to be and develop a plan around that. So we're focused, we're security focused, but we're enhancing what staff has available to them. We're a minute over. I apologize for that. Thanks everyone for joining us. Alexis, do you have any closing comments for us?
Ben, was that you? A little background
Nope,
noise.
sorry.
You're okay. Look, I think my recommendation to everybody is, look at that kind of fast win for your organization, whether that is a language translation, AI solution, or you're saying coming to a partner like us and you say, here are the systems I have. We're not changing them. Okay. Go get me data from 3 people on use cases and then bring it back to the team as a think tank. And then lastly, one of our top procurement officers left the call, but then that person has to create an ROI on it, right? So there is a fiscal component to this within cost containment. And I think reaching out to any of your strategic partners to gather data for you, I think that's really the key at this moment. Jason?
Yeah, just a quick kind of closing thought. There's a lot of companies traversing this as well. Core's been doing this now for 12 years. So we do it very well at enterprise scale. So you guys are not alone in this. Reach out to me as early or as often as you'd like to. We have hundreds, I think over 450 pre-built accelerators. So these are, in many cases, 80 to 90% of the use case built out for you. There's IT tickets, or it's personalized AI agents, or if it's a voice agent, whole CCaaS system, or anywhere in between. So there's a lot of these already built out, and you don't have to start from scratch. And they already have a lot of these guardrails on there. That's kind of where we would start as a
we're
starting
just waiting to engage with you and customize the bots to what you need.
Do you guys have? I'm sorry to interrupt. I know we're over, but do you have use cases where you've calculated some ROI with the customer's input and really determine what that looks like?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Many times it's a 10x ROI.
It gets hard when it gets into employee.
It's hard.
But what I found in the most simple terms is sometimes, when these vendors are trying to push you, they have a product. I'm going to pick on a UC product. Okay. Their AI enablement cost almost as much as the seat. Well, why do that when you can change the orchestration, which is kind of like can do 4 different orchestrations? So you kind of have to compare it to something so that you're not pushing it up the hill based on products. And you're more, in my eyes, at least from an economic perspective, creating a wrapper. But with that, I do want to be respectful to everyone's time. I will connect anybody who wants to talk after this. You guys all have my number. And I hope you guys have a wonderful, productive.
Thank you so much, Alexis. And yes, connect me with your whole group here. This was fantastic.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Alexis.
You too.
All right.
Appreciate the invite and great discussion.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks much, guys. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Rick.
Bye.